It started with a message from Liam, casual, cheerful, familiar. Dinner at Dad's place this Saturday. Small thing, you in. I hadn't seen Adrian in years, but I remembered the way his presence could make a room fall still. I typed sure, I'm in before I let myself think too much about it. Liam and I had been close since college late-night study sessions. Heartbreaks patched with pizza and bad TV, the kind of friendship that settled into your life like a second skin. Over the years, we'd both drifted and reconnected more times than I could count. But somehow, Liam's warmth never faded, like a constant in a world that kept shifting. I arrived at Adrian's house early evening, gripping a bottle of wine like a nervous offering. The place hadn't changed, modern, tasteful, quiet, in the way expensive homes often are. I rang the bell and braced for polite small talk. Then the door opened. Adrian stood there, older now but unchanged in the ways that mattered. His hair had silvered at the temples, his jawline sharper with age, but it was his eyes that held me cool, intelligent, assessing. For a moment, he simply looked at me. Then a slow, knowing smile curved his lips. You've grown, he said, voice warm and deliberate. You were all arms and bones the last time I saw you. And you haven't aged a day, I replied, meaning it more than I meant to. He laughed, stepped aside to let me in. Inside, the low hum of jazz floated from hidden speakers. The table was already set, dim lights catching the glint of glassware. It felt like walking into a memory I didn't know I'd kept. You remember where everything is, Adrian said. Liam's running late work call, but he'll be here soon. We talked, at first about nothing. Whether work, life in the city, but even as we spoke, something tightened under the surface, a tension that wasn't there before. He poured me a drink and I watched the way his fingers wrapped around the bottle, the steady ease in his movements. Still into writing? He asked, handing me the glass. I try, I said. It's not exactly paying the bills, but I haven't given up. You never struck me as the giving up type. His words settled in the space between us, heavier than they should have been. I looked at him again, really looked. There was something undeniably magnetic about Adrian, not just charm, but a gravity that pulled you in slowly, like the ocean tide. The door burst open, and Liam arrived, breaking the quiet spell. I see, you've already started without me, he grinned, throwing his jacket over a chair. Adrian stepped back, returning to host mode in an instant. Only warming up. Dinner was lively. A few others joined, colleagues of Adrian's, friends of Liam's. Stories were exchanged, laughter passed like wine, easy and flowing. But I kept catching Adrian's gaze. A moment too long here. A slight tilt of his head when I laughed. A silence that stretched when our eyes met again over a candle's flicker. At one point, Liam leaned in and whispered, Dad always pulls out the charm when there's someone new at the table. I laughed, but it didn't feel like a joke. Later, when most guests had left and only a few of us lingered in the living room, Adrian sat across from me, legs crossed, drink in hand. The conversation turned philosophical: connection, timing, the weight of paths not taken. His voice was soft, thoughtful. Some dinners aren't just dinners, he said, almost to himself. I didn't respond. I couldn't, because something in me had shifted, even if I couldn't name it yet. The way he looked at me, there was curiosity, yes, but also a strange kind of knowing, like he had already read a part of me I hadn't written down. When I left, Adrian walked me to the door. He didn't say anything at first, just held the door open and offered a small smile. Come by again soon, he said. I nodded, heart louder than it should have been. I might, as I stepped into the night. The air felt cooler than before, crisp, unsettled. I walked slowly, my thoughts tangled and strange. Liam's laughter still echoed in my memory, light and trusting. Adrian's eyes haunted a different part of me, darker, deeper. It had been just a dinner, but something inside me knew better. It started innocently, at least. That's what I told myself. A week after the dinner, Adrian messaged me. It was a short text, just a thank you for coming, and a comment about how good it was to catch up. I responded, polite and casual. But instead of ending there, the conversation lingered. He asked what I'd been working on lately. I told him about a short story I'd been struggling to finish. He said he'd love to read it. I didn't send it right away. Something about his offer made me hesitate, like showing him the story would expose more than I wanted him to see. But eventually I did. He read it within the hour and replied with thoughtful notes, gentle criticism, genuine curiosity. No one had ever taken my work that seriously before. Our texts became daily, then nightly. It wasn't flirtation, not outright, but the way he phrased things, the way he asked questions that dug just a little deeper, it felt like being seen from the inside out. He spoke with the kind of clarity people usually reserve for late-night confessions. I started to wait for his messages. I started hiding them from Liam. Liam, of course, had no idea. To him, his dad was just being kind. He even joked about it once, something about Adrian adopting me as a second son. I laughed, swallowed hard, and changed the subject. Then came the second dinner. Liam was out of town, a work trip, and Adrian invited me over. Just us, he said. I made too much food. I told myself I was overthinking it. It was just a meal. It was just lonely. I accepted. When I arrived, the house was quieter than before, dimly lit and warm. Adrian greeted me with that same calm confidence, his sleeves rolled up, a faint trace of flour on his fingers. You're right on time, he said, and I felt it again, that strange gravity pulling me in. He poured wine while the pasta finished cooking. We stood in the kitchen, side by side, shoulders nearly touching. I watched the way he moved, how effortlessly he filled space. When he handed me a glass, our fingers brushed. He didn't move away. I missed this, he said softly. I looked at him. What? Dinner with a friend of your son? No, he said, voice lower. Conversation that doesn't feel like performance. We sat at the table, candles flickering gently. The food was rich, the wine heady. Conversation drifted from books, to art, to loneliness. He told me about the years after his divorce, about how silence sometimes felt louder than any noise. I listened, my chest tight with something I couldn't name. Then, he asked, do you ever feel like you're looking for something you don't even recognize? I nodded. All the time. The pause between us stretched long and quiet. Adrian reached across the table and gently touched my hand, not possessively, not even confidently, just a question, a wondering. His thumb brushed lightly over my knuckles. My heart raced. I'm sorry, he said, and yet he didn't pull away. I didn't move. Couldn't. Every nerve in my body was waiting for what might happen next. I shouldn't, he started. But the words died there. His eyes searched mine, and for a moment, everything in me screamed yes. Not yes to him, exactly, but yes to being wanted, to being chosen, to being seen. He leaned in slightly, just enough for me to feel his breath. Then my phone rang. Liam. The name on the screen cut through the moment like ice. I pulled back fast, hands slipping from his. Adrian looked away, exhaling slowly. I should take this, I said. He nodded, his face unreadable. I stepped outside to answer. Liam was cheerful, talking about his hotel and the bad room service. I tried to keep my voice even, pretended I wasn't standing in the chill night air, shaking from something I hadn't yet done. When I came back inside, Adrian was already clearing the table. The spell had broken. We spoke little after that, just surface words. Safe topics. When I left, he didn't walk me to the door. In the cab home, I stared at my reflection in the window, wondering what line I had almost crossed, or if I already had, because nothing had happened, but everything had changed. I avoided Adrian after that night, not out of anger or shame, but because I didn't trust myself. I told Liam I'd been busy with writing, which wasn't a lie. I buried myself in half-finished paragraphs, trying to lose the tension that had taken root in me like a low, constant hum. But avoidance only delayed the inevitable. A week later, Liam invited me to a rooftop party, a friend's birthday, casual drinks, a chance to unwind. I almost declined, but something in his voice, the eager note of nostalgia, made it hard to say no. The night was cool. The skyline dressed in amber light, people clustered around fire pits and fairy lights, laughing, sipping from plastic cups. Liam introduced me to a circle of new faces, but I kept scanning the crowd. I didn't expect Adrian to be there. It wasn't his sign, but some part of me stayed alert anyway. Liam was in high spirits, relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. He talked about a possible promotion, a move across the country. If it happens, he said, nudging me with his elbow, you're coming with me. I'm not starting over without my partner in chaos. I smiled, but my thoughts blurred. A move, a clean break. It sounded like freedom, but also like leaving something unfinished behind. Later. I slipped away from the group, needing air. I wandered to the edge of the rooftop, city lights shimmering below. That's when I felt a presence behind me, a shift in the atmosphere I didn't have to turn around to recognize. Didn't expect to see you here, Adrian said, voice low. I turned slowly. He wore a dark coat, his hair tousled by the breeze. I could say the same, I replied, pulse stuttering. Liam invited me, thought it'd be good for me to get out. I nodded, unsure of what to say next. The silence between us wasn't awkward, but charged, alive with everything we hadn't spoken. I wanted to apologize, he said finally. For the other night, I crossed a line. I didn't stop you, I said, softer than I meant to. He looked at me then, really looked. I don't think I misunderstood what was happening between us. My breath caught, because neither did the first but I won't do that to him, he continued, voice tightening. I won't hurt my son. The words landed heavy. They should have been a relief, but they weren't. They were a boundary drawn with care and with heartbreak. I understand, I said, though I wasn't sure I did. He glanced over the city, the lights casting shadows across his face. Doom. You ever wonder if timing is just cruel? All the time, I murmured. For a moment, we stood side by side, saying nothing. Then someone called my name from across the rooftop. It was Liam, waving me over, his face bright with joy. Adrian followed my gaze and stepped back. Go, he said. He needs you. The words sounded final, and I hated how much they hurt. I returned to the group, laughing on cue, nodding at stories I barely heard. Liam threw an arm around my shoulders at one point, leaning in to say, "I'm really glad you're here. Man, always feels better with you around." And I smiled, but it felt like splintering inside. The next morning, I awoke to a message from Adrian. We were never meant to be a story, but if I could choose again, I'd write it differently. I stared at the screen, a knot tightening in my throat. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say that wouldn't unravel the fragile piece we'd both agreed to pretend existed. In the days that followed, I tried to return to normal writing, working, making plans with Liam, but everything felt altered, as if I'd stepped sideways into a world that looked the same but no longer fit. Adrian had faded back into silence, but I felt him in the absences and pauses, in dreams, in all the things I didn't say out loud. One night, I passed his street on my way home. I didn't stop, didn't even slow down, but for a few seconds, I imagined knocking on his door. No explanations, no promises, just the truth. I didn't, because love, when born of betrayal, carries its own kind of silence. One that doesn't ask to be broken, only endured. Liam's promotion came through 3 weeks later. He was ecstatic, packing boxes and plans into every hour. New apartment, new office, new chapter. He kept saying it like a mantra. I helped him sort through his things, watched him toss old mementos into piles labeled keep and leave. Somewhere in between a half-broken lava lamp and a high school yearbook, he found a photo of the three of Usme, him, and Adrian, taken on the deck of their lake house during one summer break. We were sunburned and smiling, arms slung around each other like the world had no sharp edges. God, remember this. Liam grinned. Feels like another life. I took the photo, my fingers brushing over Adrian's face. Yeah, I said, another life. He moved the following weekend. I drove with him halfway, helped unload boxes into his new space, and then watched as he stood in the middle of the empty apartment, laughing at how small everything looked without furniture. That night, we shared a cheap bottle of wine on the floor and talked about everything except what was clawing quietly at the inside of my chest. You'll visit, right? He asked, his tone light but his eyes searching. Of course, I said, but I wasn't sure if I meant it. Back home, the silence was thicker than before. Without Liam there, I had no excuse, no reason not to face the echo of everything left unsaid. I walked past Adrian's house twice in 1 week. Once I thought I saw him through the window, reading with his head tilted toward the light. I kept walking. Then one evening, a letter appeared on my doorstep. Not a text, not an email, a letter. Handwritten. I don't expect anything. I just couldn't keep pretending. This isn't an apology, because I think what we felt was real, but it's also not a request. It's just, the part of the story I never got to say aloud. The rest of the letter, unfolded like a confession and a farewell stitched together. He wrote about the way our conversations had stirred something in him he thought had long since gone quiet. He said he'd kept his distance, not because he regretted what nearly happened, but because he knew choosing me would have meant breaking something in Liam he couldn't fix. You made me feel alive. Again, he wrote, but not all things we love are meant to be held. Some are meant to remind us we still have the capacity to feel. I sat with the letter for hours. Read it, reread it, memorized the curve of his handwriting. I didn't cry, but something deeper than tears settled inside me, a quiet understanding of the space between longing and letting go. A week later, I passed Adrian at the farmer's market. We made eye contact, brief but unflinching. He smiled, a small sad smile that said everything. I nodded back. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Afterward, I walked through the city, taking the long way home. The sun dipped low, throwing gold across the pavement. I thought about Liam laughing in his new kitchen, starting his life fresh. I thought about Adrian, his careful restraint, his aching clarity. And I thought about myself, standing in the middle of both worlds, having loved in a way that could never fully be claimed. Some love stories aren't meant to be lived. They're meant to be remembered, carried, not because they failed, but because they mattered. I never told Liam. And not because I was protecting him, but because, in some strange way, I was protecting what we had left. He saw me as someone who had always stood beside him, and even if that truth had cracks, I chose to leave it intact. As time passed, the sharp edges dulled. The ache remained, but it softened into something like gratitude, for being seen, for feeling something unfiltered, for knowing, even briefly, what it meant to be both desired and divided. I still write, but my stories are different now. Complicated, more real. Because once, in the quiet pause between what could be and what shouldn't, I learned that betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper, sometimes it's a look across a dinner table, and sometimes it's just love out of reach, yet unforgettable.